All right, now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's start talking about the industry here. Again, we are all entrepreneurs, and an entrepreneur is simply somebody that solves problems for a profit. So to overcome a problem, you have to know what it is first, right? So let's talk about that. This video is about the common problems in merchant services as a whole. Price transparency, service, contracts, terminals, and sales tactics. So we'll start off here with pricing transparency. A lot of the times merchants literally don't even understand their fees, right? So common pricing issues are things like they're confused by what interchange is. Even right now, me saying this word, you probably have no idea what that means, and neither do merchants. You are going to learn that in this course, but a merchant does not. They get hit with hidden fees after they've signed up, and then they get their bill or their statement, and they literally can't understand it, can't figure out how to read it, and it's designed that way to be complicated for a merchant, okay? So those are some of the common pricing issues. Service. They're making phone calls. No one's answering, right? So sales reps that don't answer their phone or respond is one of the most common things that will frustrate a merchant with their service. And then if they're not contacting the sales rep, the customer service for the actual processing company has crazy hold times, or sometimes you have to leave a voicemail, which obviously is frustrating for merchants. And then the problem is not solved in a timely manner. And then the merchant's left feeling neglected and unimportant by their processor. These things are extremely common. So when you're getting extremely good customer service, that's not common in the industry. And we're going to talk more about what we offer and what they can expect from us, which blows all that out of the water. Contracts. They find out it's not what they're told. They call in and then, I'm stuck with you for how long? Contracts have been a big problem that have plagued this industry, and they're not all equal. And we're going to talk about those things obviously throughout the course. So you've got standard contracts. You're going to process with us for X amount of time. There's separate contracts a lot of the time for point of sale systems. And then there's leasing contracts. We're going to get more in depth on these things as we go. Just know that there are different types of contracts. And when someone signs up and it's not what they're told and they want to cancel or they call in, find out they're in a contract, major problem, very, very common in this industry, unfortunately. Terminal costs. If they only knew what those terminals actually cost when they realized how much they paid for it. So there's three main ways that merchants receive terminals from somebody when they sign up. Number one is they can get the terminal for free. Cost them nothing, we'll provide it for you at no cost. Number two is they outright purchase it. They make a purchase of that equipment, they own it, it is theirs, and then there is leasing terminals. We're going to talk about leasing here in just a second, but it is a very, very expensive way to pay for typically a cheap credit card terminal. And lastly is the sales tactics. When they call in and find out what the reality of what they signed up for is and are frustrated because that's not what the salesperson told me. Happens all the time. So common bad tactics are the terminals, right? Maybe a sales rep said, we're going to provide you with the terminal. Well, the merchant might have understood that as, I'm going to give you a free terminal, and then they find out it was actually a lease. Because the sales rep didn't say they were leasing it. They just said, we're going to provide you with one. Contracts. A sales rep can easily tell them that there's no contract. Well, that might be true if the processor doesn't have a contract, but that sales rep might also put them in a lease, which is a non-cancelable contract. So they have told the truth, right? If they come in and say, hey, there's no contract and we provide you with the equipment, well, it is true that maybe their processor doesn't have a contract, but that lease is a separate contract. So again, they call into customer service, they're upset, it's not what they were told, and then you have a very frustrated merchant that doesn't trust salespeople. Rate increases. They get set up on this great deal, somebody comes in, says, I can save you XYZ, huge amount of money. They switch over, they get great savings for 6 months, and then the company increases the fees and increases the rates. Obviously, that's something that's going to frustrate them and a very, very common tactic in our industry, unfortunately. And then upselling existing merchants. What this is say somebody's been a good merchant for 2 years and then something happens with their terminal. They call in, they're like, hey, my terminal's down, I can't run credit cards, can you shoot me another one? And then that credit card processor tries to sell them or lease them a new terminal. If you've been an existing client for a while, you'll be like, I've been with you for 2 years, I've been good, I don't complain, I pay my bill. Why are you trying to sell me equipment when you make money by me being a good loyal merchant? So upselling existing merchants unnecessary equipment or replacement equipment is also very common. It's really silly to try to make some now money when you have a loyal merchant that's paying you residual income. I don't understand that, but again, happens all the time. And then businesses getting set up with unnecessary equipment for their business type. For example, I've walked into a ton of auto repair shops. All they need is a regular credit card terminal that can accept a credit card, right? I've been in plenty of auto shops that have a Clover point of sale system. That is a merchant that was sold or given equipment that is absolutely too robust for what they need. And every single time you see that, they ended up buying it or leasing it. Why would the processor do that? Well, the sales rep wanted to make a huge commission, so they sold them something that's really expensive, collect a huge commission. By the time the merchant realizes, I don't need this big fancy thing, then they realize they can't get rid of it because they leased it or some bad scenario like that. So you will see it occasionally where a business has some sort of system that is way too much for what they actually need. And almost 100% of the time, it's because they released it and the merchant got a huge commission. Now they're stuck with a terminal that is way more than what they need. It's costing them money and there's nothing they can do about it because leases are non-cancelable. And as all these common things come up and they call into their customer service and try to get help and try to get out of these situations, more often than not, they find out they're in some sort of a contract. And it's kind of like it's your word against the sales reps. You're in a contract. Too bad, so sad attitude. And the part that sucks is that this has been happening with merchants over and over and over again over the years, and it has created what I call the merchant sales cycle. We're going to have a separate video specifically on this. Just know that merchants have been going through a cycle, if they've been in business long enough, of most of the things that I just went over with you. They sign up with somebody, then they can't reach them. Maybe there's a rate increase after a couple of months and they were saving X amount and now they're not because of that rate increase. They find out they're in a contract when they want to get out and switch companies, but they can't because they were locked in even though they didn't know it. Or maybe they were put into a lease when they thought they had free equipment, which causes them to call customer service and find out that there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And it just puts them in this cycle. And after a merchant's been through this multiple times, they start to distrust all salespeople, right? We're walking in the door, we're giving them the equipment for free. We don't do contracts. We know exactly what they're going to pay every month. We don't have hidden fees, no annual fees, no surprises, great customer service, amazing average hold time, all this stuff we're going to get into more detail. That's what we offer. But when you walk in with something that good, they're going off of past experiences. So it's important to know that merchants have been through these things so that you know what you're going up against and you can address it head on, which I'm going to teach you throughout this course. So let's recap the most common problems in the industry. As you can tell by all the stuff I just laid out there, and there's a whole lot more, that was just the most common list. It is a historically shady industry, so that has caused distrust from merchants to the honest salespeople. Honesty and transparency is not the norm in this industry. So learn to be sympathetic of the past and use it later to separate yourself, which I'm going to teach you how to do. And the last one, big bold letters, leasing is the worst experience possible that a merchant can go through, especially when things get bad. And that's what we're going to talk about next.